Chapter 5. We haven't the time.
Hello, little boy, little girl.
A female voice echoed from somewhere down the stairwell, making the kids flinch.
If you're down here, say something.
Oh no, it was that woman from before. The blonde one who was after them. If they were caught by her. Six's hug around Mono tightened at the thought.
She's down here. We have to go back.
Do not worry, Six. Even if we are spotted, you are safe with me. She would never suspect that we are traveling together. However, we should still do our best to try and avoid her. If I am sent back to my room, we will never get to the lobby before midnight.
Six hesitated, still obviously not liking the idea. If Mono got caught and hurt because she didn't do something to stop it.
It'll be fine, Six. She can't spot us if we're in here.
She hesitated again, but eventually tipped her head slightly in defeat. He was right, as always.
Okay.
They continued walking, Six feeling the soft sway as the bear took every step. Somehow it was a bit calming to her to feel the repetitive motion, though she had no idea why. The robot went to turn a corner. Six gasped as she felt a sudden sharp and burning pain on her leg. She recoiled, pulling her leg harder into Mono's body as she hissed softly. Of course, with her being so close to Mono, there was no way that he wouldn't notice it.
Six.
The girl bit her tongue. Some of the metal in here must have cut her leg when the robot moved in a certain way. Well, whatever. It didn't feel too deep. She could handle it. However, Freddy slowed to a stop.
I sense that you are bleeding, Six.
She huffed softly.
Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
But the robot wouldn't let up.
No, I feel that something is wrong. I am taking you to the first aid station.
The course they were in suddenly shifted, and Six and Mono yelped as Freddy picked up the pace.
There's no time. I'm fine.
They really didn't have time for a detour. Apparently they had a time limit as to when they could get out of here. If they were too late, then they would be trapped. Trapped with that woman.
Freddy, I'm sure she's fine. We can't just.
Mono was actually on her side with this one. He had been siding with the robot for a while, so it felt good to have herself validated by him again.
No, Mono. Six is injured. I am programmed to aid a child's injuries first before anything else.
Six groaned. Did he think they were babies? She could handle a little cut. She'd had worse before. It wasn't that bad. Eventually Freddy stopped and his chest opened up again, revealing some kind of booth-colored white and red. Knowing that the bear wouldn't give them a choice, the children hopped out of him and to the floor. Freddy opened his mouth to speak, but they all froze when they heard footsteps approaching from the distance. Mono and Six ducked into the booth, and Freddy aided them by closing the curtains and walking away towards one of the entrances to the room. Only a few seconds later, the footsteps entered.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Six and Mono peeked out of the curtains, seeing the back of the blonde woman from before standing in front of Freddy, shining a flashlight on him.
Officer Vanessa, I do not know how I got here.
Six groaned internally. The robot was bad at lying, it seemed. Well, at least he wasn't ratting them out. If the woman knew the lie, she didn't show it. Instead she sighed irritably.
Well, you totally blew it tonight, you know. Your system crashed and you ruined the show. Now Parts and Services has you on reduced power. They said it's a safety precaution. Just one more thing to deal with.
I apologize.
Wait, they were blaming him for ruining that performance? But Six and Mono were the ones to cause it. For some reason, that made Six felt mad. Mad that the robot was being scolded for something that they caused. It was unfair. Normally Six never cared about that kind of thing, but for some reason, letting the robot take the blame didn't feel right to her. Still, she wasn't going to pop out and say that she was the cause. That would be dumb. No, she would remain here, hidden and quiet. She would keep her opinion to herself. No one needed to know how she was feeling anyway. The woman sighed again.
Okay, look, we're like 15 minutes from closing and some kids are sneaking around backstage. If you see anything, notify me immediately. I already alerted the others. Now go back to your room.
And then the blonde woman walked away. Six and Mono didn't come out of the booth until they heard the footsteps disappear completely. Once they did, they opened the curtain as quietly as they could.
Told you she was after us.
I said nothing. I will keep you both safe.
Mono fiddled his fingers nervously.
Thank you for not telling her about us.
You are welcome, Mono. Now, I need to address Six's wound.
Six rolled her green eyes.
It's not that bad. I'm fine.
Freddy approached them and knelt down to her.
Please, Six, just sit for me. It will only take a minute.
Six crossed her arms in frustration, but ultimately did as she was told with a huff. The faster they could get through this, the better. The bear gently lifted her leg and examined the wound, and Six did as well. It really wasn't that deep, it just bled a lot. There was red trickling down her calf and to her foot. Freddy narrowed his eyes as he examined it.
While you are right that it is not a very bad wound, it is possible that it can get infected if it is not treated well enough.
And what does that mean?
Mono asked as he looked at Six's leg as well.
It means that it could injure her leg even more than it is now. In order to ensure that it will not, all we have to do is clean it with an antiseptic and bandage it up well.
As he spoke, Freddy reached into the booth and grabbed the necessary tools for the job. Though, Six had no idea what an antiseptic was.
What's an antiseptic whatever? Is it like soap?
Freddy ripped open a packet.
No, but it is trying to accomplish the same thing. Antiseptic will be able to get the job done in a much more efficient manner. However, it will hurt when I put it on your wound.
He gazed his blue eyes back up at her.
Would you like something to hold on to as I clean it?
Six scoffed.
I'm not a baby. I can handle a little pain.
Freddy seemed unsure, but he nodded anyway.
Very well. Again, this will hurt, but that is normal. On 3. 1, 2, 3.
He began to wipe it over her wound. Oh, she really should have listened to him. This was worse than getting the actual cut. It burned so bad. She writhed as she sat, biting her tongue to keep in some yells of pain. Mono gasped and jumped up when he saw how much it was hurting her.
Freddy.
I am almost done. Just another moment. Mono, please hold Six's hand for me.
Six had her hands on the walls of the booth to try and stabilize herself, and she was actually glad when Mono took one in his hold. Six gripped it tight as she writhed, and she was barely able to register him gasping from her iron grip. Finally, Freddy pulled the wipe away, though Six's wound was still burning at the feeling. The robot grabbed the bandages and wrapped it around her cuff, tight enough to keep it wrapped around her, but not too tight.
Good job, Six.
Freddy praised as he put away the tools again.
You were very brave. This way it will heal the way it is supposed to. It may not even leave a scar. Here.
He reached into the small bin on items again and pulled out a red-colored circle on a stick, with clear wrappings around it.
For being such a good patient.
Six furrowed her brows in suspicion. She furrowed her brows in suspicion.
What's that?
A lollipop. It is candy. Candy is often given to children who are brave when being treated for their wounds.
Why was he being so nice to them? It was weird. What exactly did he have to gain from acting like this? Also, candy? Six had heard of candy before. She had heard that it tasted sweet. Wait, the things that Mono had given to her in that boat thing. Were those candy? Those were sweet, and she really liked those. A bit cautiously, she took the lollipop from him.
I've been hurt worse before. This wasn't that bad. Besides, I'm brave all the time.
I see.
Freddy was making that weird face again. The one where he was concerned, but tried to smile anyway.
Can you tell me when you have been hurt worse before? You as well, Mono.
Six and Mono exchanged glances.
Does it really matter right now? We just need to focus on getting out of here.
Six nodded.
I don't want that woman to catch us.
Freddy glanced between the two, seeming even more worried for some reason. After a moment, he sighed.
Very well. Let us go.
He opened up his chest cavity again and Six and Mono climbed back inside. This time Freddy moved even more cautiously than he had before, making the trip slower than Six would have liked. Still, he was being considerate, so she was willing to let it slide. Mono pulled up the watch to look through Freddy's eyes, and Six leaned over to see.
Where are we?
Mono asked.
We are now under the pizza Plex. These utility tunnels connect all the attractions.
Attractions?
So,
Mono said, also trying to figure out what Freddy was saying.
we can go anywhere in the building.
Correct. Phaser Blast, Monty Golf, Roxy Raceway, they are all accessible to staff, with high enough clearance of course. Guests are never allowed down here, but yours is a special situation.
What even is a pizza Plex?
The Pizza Plex is a large mall dedicated towards me and my friends, where children come to play and eat and celebrate. There are many different things to do here. The attractions like Phaser Blast are some of them.
Just as they were turning down a new hallway, a red light flashed from Mono's watch. He looked down to see a red and black filter over the screen, with red letters writing something out that he didn't know.
Freddy, what's that? What do those letters say?
The bear hurried his pace a bit, though he was still moving carefully.
It says low power. It is referring to the amount of power that I have that allows me to move and talk to you. When it is low, that means that I am only a few minutes away from shutting down.
Shutting down.
Going to sleep.
He clarified, still moving quickly. Soon he had made it to another hall, then opened his chest again for them to climb out. Mono hopped out, 6 following, both confused as to why. Freddy's blue eyes were sympathetic as he leaned down towards them.
I am terribly sorry. The recharge cycle had not yet completed when I found you too. You must continue without me. But I will guide you to your phase watch in case you get into any trouble.
What? But you said.
Freddy was already walking away towards another colored capsule like the one that he had in his room. He entered it and shut the door, then smiled sadly out to them through the little window. Mono stared, blinking in a bit of confused betrayal. Freddy had said before that he would take them to the exit himself, but now he wouldn't? Why did he lie? But then, Mono looked away and frowned. Well, if Freddy really was at risk of falling asleep, then he supposed that it made sense to stay in the capsule to keep himself awake. Mono felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Six motioning down the hall.
Come on, we gotta keep moving.
Mono hesitated, but nodded. She was right. They had been on their own before. Surely they could handle getting out of a mall by themselves.
And Six is probably happy that we get to ditch him.
If she was, she didn't say it. Instead the two just started walking down the hallway, leaving Freddy alone in the charging station. With the bear gone, Mono and Six soon fell back into their usual silence as they moved. It was never awkward before, since being quiet was key to survival, and they could always understand each other with a simple silent expression. Mono and Six made their way down the hallways. It almost reminded them of the hospital, with the dim light and clean tile floor. Mono hadn't liked the hospital, for several reasons, but the main one was for those mannequins. He hated those things, and the little robots he saw behind chain link fences reminded him of them. He was just glad that they were locked behind the fences. They continued down a new hallway, but their path was blocked by a table and many items on and around it. Sure, they could try to climb over it, but if they knocked the items over, it was sure to make a loud noise that could attract things to them. Luckily, there was a door nearby, and Mono went to open the door for them. However, they ducked at what they saw. It was that white and pink bird thing, facing away from them thankfully, and kneeling down and eating something that looked like garbage. Mono cringed in confusion. Why was she eating from the garbage? Sure, he and Six had done that all the time, but now they were in a place with fresh and delicious food. Why would anyone want to eat garbage when they already had delicious things to eat? Mono glanced back at Six, who nodded her head towards the items on the table out in the hallway.
She wants to make a distraction.
The boy nodded back, and the two got into place. Six knocked over a few cans, and just as they heard the bird making a quaking noise, they snuck into the room just in time to see her leaving through another door. Mono took Six's hand and they crouched as they made their way through the room, out the door behind where the bird was standing, and down the hallway.
This area is off limits,
the bird said behind them. The kids both ignored her and kept moving until they were out of earshot of her. Once they knew they were in the clear, they stood back up and continued on their way. This place really reminded Mono of the hospital, just with more color than the bluish grays that made the hospital up. Some rooms were really dark though, making Mono wish that he still had that flashlight he had found back then. The new hall that they had entered was especially dark, with dim red lighting, steam, and more chain link fences, one having a sign on it with a drawing of a person and a line over it.
Huh. I wonder what that says.
He and Six began walking down the ominous hallway, their bare feet padding along the grated flooring.
There you are!
The kids whipped their heads around just in time to see another one of those robots, this one the green reptile from the stage, bursting through the chain link fence with a roar. Mono and Six didn't waste time. Immediately they took off running down the hallway away from it. Six was ahead of Mono, her always having been the faster of the two. Though, Mono took note that instead of her facing straight ahead like she always did, she kept looking behind herself. What was odd was that she wasn't looking towards the thing chasing them. She kept looking at Mono. Was she checking on him? The hallway ended and to their left they saw another chain link fence where the wolf was currently to get through.
Are you lost?
Mono and Six ran down the right hall, the lizard robot still following them. Mono followed Six as she ran towards a new hall with pink and white walls. Suddenly boxes from across the room were knocked over as the bird shambled towards them.
Lost boy over here.
Great, all three were after them. Mono cursed mentally as they sprinted down the hall and up a few flights of stairs. Finally they found a room with a door similar to the one Freddy had in his room. Once Mono slid inside, Six hit the button on the wall to close it behind him. Only a few seconds later, they heard pounding on the door.
That was too close.
Mono sighed internally as he and Six caught their breath.
Well done, children.
Freddy's voice came from the watch.
You found a security office. You should be quite safe in there. The doors were designed to keep our highly trained security staff safe in the event of an emergency. As long as the doors stay closed. Which they will. As long as there is ample power.
How do we know how much power we have?
There should be blue rectangular lights near each door. Please, look and see how many bars are lit up.
Mono looked up from the watch to see Six examining the lights.
There's only one bar lit.
Oh dear, that means that the power will run out soon.
Freddy, they were banging on the door. How do we get out of here?
Already, Mono was looking for anything he could use as a weapon. A pipe or a hammer or something, but didn't see anything. They couldn't die now. Not when they had already been through so much. He wouldn't let Six die.
Do not panic. You should see an interface on the security desk. Hold on while I make it accessible to you. There. You can now activate security protocols. Just touch the green button.
Six all but scrambled over and slammed her palm down on the glowing green button.
Excellent. Your phase watch is now connected to the security camera system. Check the map tabs on your phase watch.
Mono tapped on the screen of the watch, and Six quickly padded to him to look over his shoulder. There was a new tab added to the previous 3 tabs, and once he clicked on that one, he suddenly could see into the hallways and rooms around them.
Whoa.
He awed, flicking through several boxes to find new angles.
I can see the others outside.
The lizard was currently still pounding on the door, and the bird was shambling around the halls, the wolf being nowhere in sight.
Perfect. You can use the cameras to find the safe path out of the office and into the main lobby. Be careful. I know that you two can do it.
Mono looked up from the watch to Six, who narrowed her eyes and nodded in determination. Mono gave her a nod back, and the two took each other's hand before turning towards the opposite door of the office. Only one way out. Sneaking past the other robots was easy. All they had to do was wait for the bird to go around one corner, then followed behind her until they could go through the double doors. On the other side was a huge open room, well lit with bright colors everywhere. And at one of the walls was a set of glass windows and doors. Mono and Six exchanged smiles. It was the exit. It was right there. Suddenly the voice broke out again, echoing through the whole building.
Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizza Plex is now closed. Initiating nighttime protocols.
The kids had no idea what that meant, but they didn't want to waste time to find out. They started jogging towards the doors, then their eyes widened when they saw something sliding down over them. They sprinted now, Six rushing ahead of Mono once again, but it was too late. The black shutters with the face of Freddy blocked their way out. Six ran into them, trying to pull them off or break them down, but to no avail. Mono joined her a second later, but they still wouldn't budge. Six kicked the shutters in frustration.
Children, have you made it out of the building okay?
Mono sighed softly in defeat, unenthusiastically pulling the watch up towards him.
No. The doors are blocked.
Now what are we supposed to do?
How unfortunate. You both missed your chance. But there is still hope. You should be able to escape when the doors reopen at 6 a.m. Until then, keep moving, and try not to draw attention to yourself.
The kids looked at each other, then each gave a confident smile.
Yeah. We're pretty good at that.
What is this?
A lollipop. It is candy. Candy is often given to children who are brave when being treated for their wounds.
I've been hurt worse before. This wasn't that bad. Besides, I'm brave all the time.
I see. So then, would you like me to?
No, I still want it.